don't need it. I definitely don't need it. I 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 need it!
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Frank, and we're just gonna get right into it today because there is a lot to do in this video. Today we are making Tanjiro Kamado's, Mina Ashiro's Railgun from Kaiju No.8. I swear the writer of this manhwa or manga? It's Japanese. This manga and Gege Katami probably know each other because the naming is wild. If you got that joke, you're a weeb. Anyway, we got the files from the Exhausted Weeb, and while I was in there grabbing Kikuru's axe, maybe I grabbed some other things like her giant railgun because why not? It's huge and I wanted the files, and maybe I got some other stuff while we were there, but we're not gonna worry about that. That's spoilers, don't shh. Anyway, yeah, we're gonna jump right into it. There is a lot to do. I need to preface the next part of this video with, while I recorded the B-roll and the voiceover for a few little of this before, I was feeling very under the weather, so the energy might not be there, but the information is. Just bear with me, I promise. It's a lot of good information and the video is gonna be fun, but I didn't really have a big reason to make this canon aside from just making it and putting it on the wall. But my friend Kaylin, Keizuko Kaz, you've seen her, and she's the one who bullied me into that free run staff. If you're interested in that video, go check it out. It's really funny. She was doing a Mina cosplay and was just gonna do the standard little like machine gun or handguns that they have, but I'm like, nah, we can do better. And I brought it to AnimeNYC, but that's in the future, or I guess in the past when I'm recording this. Anyway, we're gonna get right into the build. It's an awesome prop, and you get to see a really cool reveal at the end. So let's jump right into it. To the files. All right, there's a lot to do here, so let's get right into it. The files are by the Exhausted Weeb on Cult3D, link down below. Once you get them downloaded, you're gonna see there's a lot of files in the folder. Go ahead and just drop them into Orca. He does have his own plate made, but we're just gonna go through all of the parts. I'm gonna go plate by plate and just explain what I did, and you guys are just gonna print them however you can. I am using my Creality K1 Maxes. I'm doing pretty decent quality on the parts that need it. Other parts that like are gonna be sanded and power smooth, that's totally fine. Let's just do it. First up is the main handle. For strength, I went and cut this in half and laid it flat. As the layers build up, that's how you get that strength, and I know the handles are gonna need to be the strongest parts of the cannon. You can still lay it flat, but this just seemed easier to me, so I just sliced it. You know, you go right here, you click the thing up here, you go to cut, and you cut it in half, however you want to do it. Over here, we have the other parts of the handle, the back handle, and then we have the little charge handle on the side that doesn't actually move. I want these to be strong, cut them in half, laid them flat. Over here, a bunch of little miscellaneous details. I'm gonna print these at a higher quality. These aren't really that important. We are gonna go and modify them once they're on the cannon later and kind of glue things into place, but however you want to print these, they're pretty easy to do. Now, there are a lot of pins you can use and different parts that are gonna need to be printed to lock things together. I'm gonna be honest, I only used like 1 or 2 of the pins I printed, so you can print all of them, you can print none of them. We're gonna be PLA welding a lot of stuff and using a lot of super glue. If you do print them, I'd scale them down like 1 to 2% just for the tolerances, or else things usually don't fit. So dealer's choice on this. Here's the little energy tank on the back. This is something we're gonna heavily modify with magnets to make it removable, but I just stood this up and printed it pretty hollow. This is the big handle on the bottom. This, I guess you could cut it in half, but it's so beefy that just printing it in really any orientation's probably gonna be enough. And now we get into the parts of the main body. This is where we're gonna really wanna start saving weight with your settings. While you were trying to make the handle strong, I really focused on making the main body parts as light but strong as possible. So we're running things like 4 and 5 walls and 2 to 3, maybe 5% infill. I'm gonna cover later how I went back and modified some things, and it's gonna make sense throughout the video, but just run more walls on this. It's gonna help you a lot with strength. Don't really worry too much about infill. We're gonna do a little bit of slicing and just to show you some examples, but there are a lot of parts with this, so just kind of go through, position them however you see fit. You can come over here, look, you know, it's just more and more parts. All of these parts fit on the K1 Maxes, the 300 by 300 by 300, except the 2 parts of the barrel, and they're super easy to cut. But I was really happy to know that these parts aren't actually that tall and they came out great. To start hollowing stuff out, all you're gonna do is pick your part, you're gonna right click it and go add negative part. We're just gonna load in a cube, and you can see it's gonna load here, and it's attached to the part. You can see it down here. So what I'm gonna do is we're going to center this part, and then we can center the cube itself. It's still selected. We can then scale the cube up, and I'm gonna non-uniform scale this because I need this to fit in the box. So we're gonna sit it about there. And you're just gonna move the cube around or whatever you wanna do until it sits in a spot that you're happy with. Now this is gonna take some adjustment. As you get the cube or whatever negative part closer to the inner and outer walls, you're gonna have to slice and undo and kind of modify some stuff. I wonder if I mesh the boolean, will it delete it? Oh yeah, kidding, you can just do that, hit mesh boolean. And see, it cut out the sides of the can, and I don't want that. I still need a little bit of size there, so right about there. And then you right click, mesh boolean, and there, it cuts it out. Or if you just go and slice it, it'll do the same thing. But this will give you a better idea of how to just modify the parts. I went and did this on the ammo can. I went and did this using a cylinder or a cone to actually hollow out the back of the barrel. I also cut out a little bit of the tip of the barrel, or sorry, the exhaust barrel, whatever you want to call it. And I also did this on the insides of the barrel as well to make it as light as possible. So however much weight you want to cut with this, I probably could have went and done these parts too. I could have cut a lot of weight out of this, but it's dealer's choice. I just wanted to make it as light as possible. Like I said, the only two parts I had to actually cut up to fit was bar part 4 and bar part 5 because they're just a little bit too tall. So I just lopped off the very top of it, and then I had 2 pieces to print, and then I cut the barrel in half. So then again, I had just 2 pieces to print. So not a big deal. You can just easily do a standard plane cut it right in half. And that's all the parts you need to print, guys. I hope it made sense about talking about the laying things flat for strength. Again, use 4 or 5 walls. You can really cut down on your infill to save yourself a lot of material and print time, and print them at whatever quality you want. So let's run some time lapse of this thing printing, because my K1 Maxes have cameras, which is great, and then a little bit of the assembly, and we're rolling right through. Yeah, let's do it. So here is the finished and assembled cannon. Now, I'll be honest, guys, I did want to show you every step of the way, the iterations, the design choices, record all of it. But as I started iterating and having to fix and update stuff, it just would have been completely impractical. So now that I've landed on a final design, this is it. This is ready for paint. I'm gonna start and I'm gonna go over the entire thing. The nozzle, the tip of the nozzle or the barrel, why I changed that, reprinting this, how I got everything connected. And we're just gonna work our way down. But I gotta say, like, this thing is so cool. Look at it, look at it. Let's start with the barrel. Now, this was probably my first and biggest mistake, was printing this in so many different sections. There's 5 pieces here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And even though I did a light infill, I think I did 5% infill and 4 walls for strength. This thing is strong. The problem is there's five top layers and 5 bottom layers, or 4 bottom layers, and there's 4, so 8. So now you have too many seams, so it's just gonna add to the weight. And when you hold this out, especially with how heavy I made the nozzle tip, and then there's density here, it just makes it really, really top heavy. In total, the weight of this thing is 1,400 grams. So about a roll and a half. This other iteration that I've made is 1,340, and that's including the light and the metal rods at the end of it. So it's not a significant drop, but it is enough, especially when you're standing there holding this. This is so much easier to do than that one. This PLA weld here looks so awful because I made the mistake of welding it on crooked, because this slides on a very particular way. You can see that this bottom hole is centered, and that goes at the bottom of the cannon. So then the nozzle tip, the holes up here need to be aligned properly. I made that mistake, and I also printed it wrong 4 times. Initially what I had done is I had buried, that was a good catch. I had buried a nut and a bolt inside the print to screw everything on. And this works just fine, honestly. You can do this if that's what you so desire. But for the new one, I wanted to cut even more weight. So I just hollowed out the entire inside, and I was gonna use these 3 holes to align it. These are just really short metal rods that I used, and I used some vinyl electrical tape because it holds super glue really well. So I wrapped it in tape and then dropped some super glue in there. And now I have these little alignment dowel rods to just to just slide in on the barrel, and I buried in some magnets, and now it just sits there. So that's the barrel done. And then I'm gonna go inside here and paint this chrome. It's gonna look great, but that's this little bit done. Next up, we'll talk about the back right here. This was another choice I made, and it still goes on the same way. A nut and bolt that just screws it on, but after looking at some reference images, this is actually supposed to be hollow. So initially I had printed it just how the model is, but then I went and hollowed it out, and I just buried a nut and bolt in there, and then I just glued it into place. Once I paint the inside of this black, it's not gonna matter. It actually looks kind of cool sitting in there. So again, this didn't really save weight, again, because the surface area of the bottom of this is less than the surface area of the inside of this cone. There's probably an equation there, you can figure it out. But it looks a lot cooler, and I'm glad I made that choice. I went through a few iterations of this top little can right here, this ammo canister. The reason this needs to come off is because this handle unscrews. Now I printed this laying flat in 2 pieces. You guys saw that in the slicer preview, because now it is incredibly strong. And then I buried a nut and bolt the same way, so I can just screw this on there. And it's nice and strong. And it actually turns just a little bit, so you can get a little bit of a better angle on it. And I'll show you after all of this how I did the electronics to make the barrel wireless. You can actually, it's wireless, and I'm actually pretty proud of this. So this can be used in a multitude of different costumes. Now I don't have to run wires. The ammo can is just held on with some bar magnets. Do not heat the magnets up themselves. Use the soldering iron or whatever, melt the plastic, use a lighter, and then push the magnets in. If you overheat a magnet, it loses its magnetism and then it's dead. Sometimes what you can do is have one dead magnet as a template. You use that to press in the shapes, and then you swap it out for a magnet that actually works. It works great. Now next up is the big handle here, and this one was a little bit tricky because I needed this to be strong too. So again, printed it flat for strength and integrity, glued the parts together, and you can see that there are 4 bolts buried in the side of it, and then I just melted some holes. Where is it? Right here. I melted some holes in there, so now I can drop the handle through, and then it just slides up, and then it actually has a little bit of play in it, and it is very, very strong. I am not worried about this breaking. It has good strength to weight, and yeah, do whichever way you want to do that, that's totally fine. There is a slot for a rod to go all the way through, but this just seemed like the easy solution. Now, as for attaching the barrel, you guys can probably already see, again, 3 metal rods. They're the same depth here to here, and the barrel just slides on. I use the vinyl tape for a little bit of a pressure fit, and then there's a magnet buried in the bottom. So this just slides on like that. This just slides on like that. I just slide. There you go. Easy. And the last 2 parts, this is the hardest part to get off, and that's probably for the best. Because the way this aligns right here, this little angle, it just sits perfectly right on the back end of the body. And I used 1 threaded metal rod that's more or less pressure fit. It is a little bit of a pain to get it in there, and that's fine. I don't want this separating while I'm carrying it around or whoever's using it. So that just pressure fits in there. This is the assembly all glued together. Again, this handle right here, I printed it for strength in this direction, so you can really hold it. And this is really just the main body of everything. And the last change I made last minute was the ammo can. Initially, I printed it in 1 solid piece, and it's actually pretty light. I like it. I think right now it weighs 590 grams, but I need a place to store a battery pack, and it'd be nice to actually have a little bit of storage in there. So I took some magnets right here, and I made just little magnetic clips, so you can see 1 and 2, and then put that there. And then there's another magnetic clip here, put 1 and 2. And then this whole ammo can drops open, and I used some extra raft material to make a lip at the end, and then there's a slot. So this just slots in to hold it. And then I have storage, because inside of there is hollow. Now you have somewhere to store your purse or your phone or whatever you want to hold. Now this didn't really cut down weight. This weighs 718. Again, more surface area inside of the print, and I think I made the walls a little bit stronger. But since this is center mass on the gun, it doesn't add as much weight as, say, a denser barrel or, tip. And then we'll go over all the electronics and how I ran the wires once this is in the final assembly stage. But I did preemptively get the LEDs in there. I'm gonna make a cover for it, and then the battery pack will be Velcroed in here. And with the ammo can being hollow, I have storage for everything that I need. So let's get this whole thing back together with the LEDs, electronics, battery pack, and we'll do a final weight just to see how much this thing weighs. Okay? That's the gun all together, and its final weight comes to 12.4 pounds. That's it, 12 pounds. Not bad. Obviously, because it's a longer prop, it's gonna feel heavier than that, but it's oddly well balanced right in the middle. If the barrel was a little heavier, it would probably be perfectly balanced on this part, but I think it's finally ready for some paint and a lot of sanding. Luckily, it's all like flat or matte black, so it's gonna be pretty easy to make this thing look good. So now that we know how the cannon is going to go apart, it's time to start sanding and painting. And thank God for power tools, because it's going to make it so much easier to do this. I got everything to the garage and I got to work. I started off by using a 60 grit and an 80 grit sanding disc on my Power Palm sander. It really just knocks down the layer lines, and we're going to use so much filler primer on this later that if there's any deep scratches, they're going to go away anyway. So just power through and get it nice and smooth. After I was done with the 60 and 80 grit on where I could actually use it on, I just did a quick little rub down with 100 grit to knock down any high spots on it. Now, to save myself some sanity, as I was sanding parts, I would go and then filler primer another one, this way to give myself a little bit of a break. And I'll say it again, because I say it in every video, do as I say, not as I do. Wear a respirator. I have good ventilation here and a fan blowing on my back, but still wear a mask. I am using Duplicolor's red filler primer, which is hands down the best in a can filler primer I have ever used. It is wonderful and expensive and really hard to find, probably because of people like me and cosplayers just abusing it. More and more power sanding. Here's a fun little trick for you kids. Use gravity. It's always there and it's free to use. When doing big flat parts, lay them flat. I'm actually just soaking the part in filler primer because gravity is gonna let the liquid, the uncured paint, kind of settle and self-level. It will make a huge difference. If I was to try to do this and soak it on its side, I'm gonna get runs. Well, it can't run if gravity's pulling everything down. So I can't do this on every part, but it definitely works on sword blades and things like this. It is a great little trick. You're welcome. I thought these bigger parts were going to take a lot longer to sand, but I was able to knock down the layer lines really quickly on these. I think one of my K1 Maxes had a little bit of a banding issue, and I was printing at a kind of a lower quality than I probably should have, but yeah, filler primer to the rescue. And after some sanding and filling and priming and rinsing and repeating and getting a way too much sanding dust in my lungs, you can see that a lot of the parts are finally ready for that final pass of sanding at like 200 to 300 grit sandpaper, and then we're gonna get into painting. I was out of my actual sandpaper sheets, so I'm just using the sandy discs by hand. Don't judge. Okay guys, so full disclosure, moving into the painting process, I didn't get as much footage of this as I would have liked, but it's not the end of the world because this is such a weird big prop. I'm glad I focused more on the assembly and the tricks I used for that. Painting is painting, and honestly, kind of a boring paint job. It's just kind of flat black with some metallics I added in for some pizzazz. Sorry I didn't get as much footage as I would have liked. However, it will make the final reveal that much better. Let's go over the painting. I took some creative liberties on this and actually made some of the parts not flat black, but an oil rubbed bronze. And you've seen this on a bunch of my props before. I actually think it's on my split soul katana and my buster sword. Maybe. Great color, goes on super well and covers a lot of imperfections. I did a couple parts in this color. As for the rest of the barrel and the big parts, I was using a flat black. Now there is a little bit of a trick to this. You can't go on too wet with a matte or a flat black. I think I varied between a Rust-Oleum and a Krylon. I did a base coat and some parts end up coming out a little glossy and shiny while others will be flat. I don't have footage of it because it was just weird to do, but if you really want to get a nice matte sheen, you want to sit there with the part that you're painting and actually almost dust it onto the part. You want to do a bunch of wet coats, but that final coat or a couple final coats, you're almost going to snow the paint onto it like it's just misting and dusting on. And you want to keep the part moving or the can moving around. If you do that a couple times and let the paint like snowflake fall onto it, that is going to give you such a darker, deeper matte finish because the paint isn't leveling itself. It's making a bunch of little particles and speckles, and it might even feel a little textured. Try it out, see if it works for you. I was able to get some pretty good results with it. With that little dusting method, this is kind of some of the results you can get. I went over it a couple more times, but the parts are coming out pretty good. The last little thing I had to do was mask off the tip of the barrel so I could just completely douse the inside with chrome because I wanted the inside of that to be nice and shiny when I put the LED inside of it. Could it have been cleaner? Yeah. Does it work? Yeah. So now we're done painting everything. We gave that ample time to cure. Now it's time to do the final assembly and the little bits of detailing that I think are really gonna send this over the edge. So let's put this thing together. The first thing I wanted to do was go around and detail it. I do this on all of my bigger builds. It's a habit from like building Gundam models. I took this liquid chrome pen and just went around and made all the nuts and bolts look more real. And you can actually see in this exact clip here at the bottom, I actually ran some real screws and bolts into the prints. I just took a drill bit and then literally screwed them in with a power drill because a real screw looks, well, real. And I just covered the whole gun with them in strategic places. You'll see it in the final reveal. I'm really proud of it. Next up was the little hose thing. Exhausted Weave didn't really include files for this. This was more of like a creative freedom kind of thing. But you can see in this photo of Mina's cannon that there's these like energy tubes that run from the sides of the barrels up to the little detail part on top and then goes up to the energy canister. So I just decided to take some wire loom, bored out some holes, stuff the wire loom in there, ran it through a bunch of miscellaneous parts, and I think it actually came out pretty cool. I figured just why not be a little extra about it. Oh, it'd be cool if one day it like glowed like it was charged. Whatever, problems for later.
Okay, this video is already running super long, so really quick overview on the electronics. They're really basic. So after I printed this part out, I took my soldering iron and actually just cut out the hole. You could probably mesh the boolean and remove it, whatever. This worked. I cut it out. I threw some aluminum foil tape on the inside and just layered it with a super cheap LED strip from Five Below. You get these at Walmart, the dollar store, and they have an RGB controller. That's it. Then I ran the plug all the way through. This way the IR sensor for the actual remote sits in the bottom, and then you just put the USB battery pack there, plug it in, and you have LEDs. And then I just set it to green, and it stays green the entire time. Oh, that's not green. That's green. I then took an oval shape and Orca slicer and stretched it and flattened it out and just printed it in some clear PLA with like one layer. And that's what I used as the cover right here. And it diffuses the light. You can literally cut up some old Tupperware for this if you want. And once it's screwed on, it looks like that. Done. As for the light in the front, this is one of those dollar store, push light things that you get real cheap. All I did was take it apart, and if you break it apart just enough, you can get access to the electronics inside, and you can let your imagination run wild with this. But what I ended up doing was taking one of these remote control IR receivers. They look like this, and I'll link them down below. I use this in my Soulstone video, and it literally just gives you an on-off switch to any electronics you want. I just interrupted the negative going to the batteries in the back, and then it just turns on and off. I guess I should get batteries. And now I can turn it on remotely easily. Again, I could have left the little push button and just stuck my finger down the barrel and turned it on and off, but this just seems like more fun. After that, I just took some green cellophane paper, stacked it up, and just put it all back together. Remote control LED. I can put it anywhere I want.
Okay guys, that's it. We've gone over the files and the printing and the assembly and the sanding and the painting and the detailing. Oh my God. And I am so excited to show you guys the final reveal of this. There was another little part of building this was I was bringing it to AnimeNYC so my friend Kaylin could actually use it in her Mina cosplay. So how about we just let that be the final reveal? Check this out. So here it is, guys, the final cannon all together. A little extra rub and buff here, some metal screws there. It came together so wonderfully, and it just looks menacing. There were people at the con just asking to hold it and take photos with it, and this combined with Kaylin's cosplay just really brought the whole thing together.
So here is the cannon, guys. I love this thing. This was such a fun project to make. There are some changes, some final little tweaks I did that I didn't show in the video that I just want to cover real quickly. I guess we'll just start right here at the top. Stay. So the little barrel tip here, I was having trouble getting those metal rods to stay into place. So I actually took 3 little Allen key set screws, and they're actually functioning screws. They're actually just drilled in, and they press against those metal rods, so the tip of the barrel doesn't come out. It's a little loose right now because I don't have them fully screwed down, but that stopped the tip from like drooping down, so it was actually stayed straight. And then it just looked kind of nice with all the little extra details. This thing took a beating. One modification I had to make after AnimeNYC was right down here. You can see there's a screw right there because this part with the one metal rod kept separating. If we were carrying the gun around like this, it would just slip out. This thing hit the ground multiple times. It fell into pieces, everything came apart, but it came apart where it was supposed to. Nothing cracked, nothing broke, everything just, this might have fallen off and rolled on the ground, but it wasn't a problem. The durability of the 4 and 5 walls and the way I printed everything to make it strong and give it a lot of support
worked perfectly. All in all, weighed about 14 pounds. It did make her arms a little tired after a little while, which is expected because you're holding it like this and just taking photos and everybody wants you to be cool with it. But it worked out absolutely beautifully. The battery pack lasted exactly 1 day and then it died, so it was really good timing. It was a literal massive hit. People wanted to take photos next to it, with it, and a few people even wanted to hold it, like Sir Julius Cosplay over here. I love how this thing came out. This is the one pose I wish we had gotten, her holding the Canon kind of like this, looking all like a badass. This is one of my favorite prop builds. I love it. I know this was a much longer video than normal, but there was just a lot to go over with this thing. The assembly, the way it broke down and fit into a suitcase. I wanted to cover it all because this is such a unique thing. If you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, please leave a comment down below. I read all of them and I will do my best to respond to as many as possible. And if you found this video entertaining, please subscribe. This isn't the only Kaiju No. 8 weapon I'm making. I actually have a couple more planned, and Hoshin is getting some love, let's just say that. If you guys have other suggestions for other anime or manga or sci-fi prop builds, please let me know. I've definitely gotten some awesome suggestions from you guys. I just got done with my little solo leveling daggers right here, and if you guys want to go check that video out, it's linked probably somewhere on the screen or down below. Learn how to make Sun Jinwoo's daggers, some solo leveling. These came out sick. I also built them for AnimeNYC. I have like no photos of myself in them, but go check out that video. But I'm done rambling. This was a really fun prop build. I have no idea where I'm gonna put this thing. It will not fit on the wall, but you know what? It still looks cool. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys, and you have a good day.